Hello, welcome to Free Will, Science, and Religion. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here with wsdtime or Will and George Ortega, and we're going to be talking about blame today and how people are used to the idea of blaming people and seeking revenge on them and all that. But what do we replace blame with? And there's something that a compatibilist said that blame is identifying the problem and then rehabilitating people and making corrections, which which is really what he's talking about is doing the same thing as what we want to do. We want to change things. We want to improve things. We do want to identify problems and help people do better, deterministically, of course. Um, but the problem is he just as this compatibilist that I've talked to, just as compatibilists redefine free will, what he's done is he's redefined blame to mean rehabilitation of criminals. That's the thing, but that's not what people do when they blame people. We all know that. People they blame people and they get all angry and mad at them like, well, you chose to do this and I'm mad at you. I'm not your friend. I'm blocking you on Facebook, or even worse, they're killing them or something. So um, I think perhaps that the word blame is just not right for our mission that we're promoting. Um, because we want to fix problems. We know that people can change, and we all, I'm sure, have subjects that interest us that we'd like to see improved. But as far as blame, I think we can do without the word blame. I think there needs to be an alternative term, but I'm kind of at a loss for what word that would replace that. So maybe you guys have some thoughts on that.
All right, well, I'm thinking that basically, rather than blaming the person for doing something wrong or blaming ourselves when we do something wrong, how about if we identify the person and we identify this? In other words, like we are identifying the fact that, let's say, someone else did something wrong, but since they don't have a free will, it would be wrong. It would be immoral to blame them. But we still, like, whether it's someone else or ourselves, we still have to address what was done in some way. So I think identifying them, kind of like, allows us to do that. Allows us to kind of like, it gives us a word to describe what we're doing that doesn't connote blaming and the negative connotations.
Yeah, obviously identifying the cause of something, like for example, somebody identifies what the cause was of a fire. It could be that, something went wrong with the microwave, the parts inside, and the microwave burst into flames, starting a huge fire. Um, and people don't tend to blame the microwave.
or why the car breaks down.
Right. Now I do know of people who do that kind of thing and blame their cars and punish them. But but most of us understand that there's no malicious intent or nor any choice being made by a microwave or a car, but that there's a reason things break down and things go wrong. Um, so identifying the cause of something is important only because you can use that information to prevent something in the future. You want to make sure that there wasn't a human who set fire to the building. Um,
Hmm.
because if there was, well, then that means you need to do something about it, because then you identify the cause of, well, why did this person burn down this building? And sometimes you'll find out, well, that they didn't put out their cigarette. Another reason why nobody should be smoking cigarettes. But
Agreed.
yeah, a little side note. Or what if it was an act of arson where this person got
Threw
really
a Molotov cocktail through somebody's window.
yeah.
Yeah. I play a lot of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Well, or what if it was arson where somebody got really mad at somebody because let's say that they disagree with them in politics or religion, and so their solution is to kill this person by setting fire to their house. Well, see, in that case, if you can identify who was the agent who set the fire, we still don't fundamentally blame them in any way, but we're identifying them as the cause. Not the first cause, of course, but I would say the observable and perhaps the correctable cause. I guess we need to be focused more on the correction aspect, because a problem that people have when they understand that we're determinists is they think that we're just saying, oh, well, nobody's to blame, so let's let all the criminals out of jail and everybody does whatever they causally want, which isn't really what we're saying anyway. Actually, we believe that everything has a cause, and therefore, it's actually quite possible to prevent dangerous things from happening and people reacting in revenge and hatred. And so, I know we'll make a better world, but we have to. Here's a little problem: is okay, so I have this friend who is mad at some things that people have said to him, names they've called him, accusations they made against him, and he still can't get over it. And he's saying that we can't let them get away with it, and don't try to justify what he said to me, and and I try to tell him, well, we're not justifying anything. I'm not justifying anything here. But you know, but that's not what it's about. Now, here's the deal. I'm actually kind of at a loss of how to handle certain situations in my life and with relationships and what this friend I'm trying to help is experiencing here, because I would like to just say, just let it go, shake it off. But at the same time, we can't do that. Actions always have to be made. And of course, I've tried to advise him to block people and not look at what they're saying about him and all that, because that gets them all upset. Because on the internet, that's what you can do. I think the real work, though, the real change that will happen in society won't be on the internet, because, we already have defriending and blocking and reporting features on social media. But in real life, with people doing actual acts of stuff that hurts and kills people, that's where our focus is in our message that there's no free will, and how everything that people do is determined by prior causes, and that we automatically learn how to prevent those same things from happening again. And we all do
And
that.
and I had to say that would be the hard part, because people are stuck in their ways. They don't want to change. They don't want to see the change coming. Some of them, yeah. If I was to tell you about you made that speech to some of the people I know in real life, they would run you out the building. I'm telling you, that's the way I see it.
Oh yes, I
Yeah,
know that there are
but
many people who are hostile to this message.
hmm
All right, so we've got two problems. One, we want to show them the paradigm and the word of blame to identifying. And just in relation to that, I'm thinking like, in terms of the causes why the person does that, I think we want to refer to them as causes or reasons, right? But in terms of the person, I think we want to simply identify the person as either a person or an agent. Certainly we can identify the person as a cause, but like, I think it's better if we just, if we limit the word cause to the reasons why the person does what the person does, or the causes. And so, yeah, certainly, like, relative to, like, there's a lot of people that do a lot wrong. We all do wrong. We all make mistakes and stuff. So here's the thing that, and while it's going to be very difficult to basically, you know, get people to do the right thing and all, the idea behind this is like, under the free will belief paradigm or perspective, if we're identifying somebody or blaming actually for doing something wrong, they're going to get defensive. They're going to say, oh, like, they're actually going to say, they're going to try
hmm
to defend themselves. So
especially
like,
my family.
Yeah,
which is heavy
everybody does.
religions. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like, to the extent that we move from that, it'll be easier for people to hear, from other people. Listen, like, the way you're doing this, maybe you want to do it differently. Maybe you don't necessarily want to do these kinds of things anymore. It would be much more compassionate, and I think that would help them to cooperate with efforts to basically correct their behavior.
Yeah, and it's certainly a hard sell too, because yeah, here's the problem is that when we tell people that the things they're doing are contributing to the melting of the Arctic and climate change and all that, I mean, that's just one of many examples where humans are causing great harm. Um, it's weird. I mean, nobody wants to feel guilty of that. And so what's
That's the
difficult,
hard part.
yes, what's difficult about it is that people make all kinds of assumptions since, 90% of the people that I know, well, actually more closer to 99% of the people I know, you know,
That sounds right.
yeah, because I'm in America. And it,
So am I. I guess everybody's here, actually.
yeah, I know. I'm seriously. I live in a weird place. And so pretty much everybody is almost highly religious, and even the atheists still can't give up this whole free will thing, a lot of them. And so you guys in the podcast understand it, but when I talk to another person and tell them, that humans are contributing to climate change and that they're slaughtering these farm animals, but also causing them horrible, painful lives, and women are killing their babies with abortion, the thing about it is they don't like to hear that because then they feel like, oh
Hmm.
no, they don't want to feel that, oh no, I'm a torturer and a murderer and I'm destroying the planet. I don't want people to face that guilt, but at the same, like, I don't want to, like a lot of people, they just say, oh, well, what I'm doing isn't really wrong because there's no standard of morality.
Or
Um,
top of the food chain.
yeah, yeah, they're the top of the food chain, so they
Yeah, I could give you a story. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I deal with that a lot, but here's the deal: that's not the route I'm taking. The route I'm taking is that, well, what we're doing is bad. It's
Hmm.
harmful to the people that we're hurting, and it's harmful to all life on the planet too.
Hmm.
Um, so what's interesting is we're not going to back down on the truth of the harm that's being done, but at the same time, we have to make people understand it's not your fault that you were raised in such a way that made you destroy the planet. So,
Yeah.
we're trying to, we want to help you see the light and improve here, but we're not blaming you. And it's
I have
really,
to say something.
yeah,
I gotta say something, man.
okay.
It's a little, well, it's kind of on the topic, but I was walking past one day, right? Dude was having it on the grill, right? He put this live crab on the grill. And the way I saw I'm like this, like pain. He said, we're on top of a food chain. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, it's like this. I can see the crab. And it's like his mouth is open. I could tell it was in pain.
Oh man.
Yeah, it had to be bad.
All right, so
Oh,
here's the thing, Will. So like, how does free will relate to this? Like, if that person with the lobster, if we with climate change, and how
Crab,
we treat
actually. But
animals.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's the same thing. I mean, they're sentient beings. I'm sure they feel some suffering, some pain. So the idea is like with the free will belief, we're blaming them and we're accusing them of being insensitive and callous and cruel. And with climate change, basically irresponsible, and we're destroying civilization. So like that's the thing. So like under free will beliefs, we blame them for it, and what happens is they go into denial. In other words, with the crab, that guy might have said, well, crabs don't feel pain anyhow. With climate change, people will
Actually, he
say,
said we're on top. Actually, he said we're on top of a food chain. But yeah.
oh, right. So he'll make up some kind of rationalization. So like we're allowed or something, whatever. But to the extent that we move from blaming people to simply identifying them as the agents of whatever they're doing, then all of a sudden, like, they understand, we understand, they're not fundamentally to blame. They don't have to feel bad about themselves. And maybe, what happens with the crab and climate change, people go into denial. When people are like accused of something that's really bad, that considers them bad people, they will deny that they're actually doing it, or they'll deny the information. The climate change, they'll deny that climate change is happening.
Oh yeah, I
So,
know. I can tell you one thing. I ain't trying to get racist, but I live in a black community, and trust me, I know.
absolutely. So like that's the great. So like to the extent people overcome belief in free will, whenever people identify them, then they won't feel accused, and there won't be anything that they would feel the need to deny.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's how I feel about it. I know it works from experience because I no longer feel, like I used to feel really bad for being stupid, believing the things I used to, and I felt really bad for the first book I published because it's just full of false stuff. But I don't
In fact,
feel
yeah,
responsible, and so I don't feel like, well, it's not my fault if I was an idiot, or even if I am still an idiot about certain things now.
I say the same thing, man. Well, then again, and like I tell you something, about 95% of the black community still believes in this religion, and trust me, and you're being raised up in it, and they ain't told why they're being told that this place called hell exists, but yeah, at the same time, God is an all-loving God. Well, I was told this late, but it's like this to me. That didn't make sense to me. That kind of there ain't friction there.
Yeah, there's kind of a
Like
contradiction.
what?
I mean, yeah, it's like people realize
I don't
this,
get that.
yeah, people don't realize about two things that they claim to believe that can't both
Oh,
be true.
here's an excuse. Oh, God made us in our image. Oh, God is His choice. Oh, God, they just see the omnipotent part and they don't realize. I'm like, yo, He's omnipotent, all powerful. It basically
Right. The
means everything is His fault.
yeah,
He knew what would happen.
yeah, see, that's the problem. And of course, I mean, and we don't want to get too on topic about that, but yes, one
Okay.
problem with being the first cause is, well, that everything's sort of your fault. That's kind of the problem. And we're saying that nobody, not even God, if God existed, could be, the first cause. I mean, that would just be so bizarre. And we've talked about that in some of our episodes too. So, but yeah, I mean, nobody really wants to feel that guilt, and so if we can get people to stop blaming themselves for things, because like let's say that somebody is blaming themselves um, for some mistake they did, like I don't whatever it might be, and
Yeah.
so they go to a psychologist who happens to understand the true nature of human will and and let's say that the psychologist he tells them, well, you don't need to feel fundamentally responsible and guilty for this. Yes, you made a mistake, but we all do, and given what you were taught and the influences and genetics you had, it made sense what you did. And
Mhm.
of course your life can improve and you can do better. That's good. I mean, that's kind of like the message that I really think therapists need to be promoting. That would be so awesome. It would help so many people. They wouldn't be. I think they would heal a lot better. Their depression would go away a lot sooner. Because yeah, I think that would be great. But the only one little problem I see with that approach is that then that person might start blaming, their parents and their school and the religion they grew up in. I mean, just like I
Hmm.
used to do that kind of stuff,
Good point.
blaming other people. Say, oh, it's other people's fault that they
Can I
taught me
quote you on that?
this. What?
Can I quote you on that? Yes, I understand what a parent. I understand if the parent did everything he could to raise you up right.
Yeah,
Because sometimes outside influences, which is why if I ever have kids, I'm moving out of the ghetto.
yeah,
Because bad A's can influence your kids, make them do stupid stuff. Because they don't learn it from you, they learn it from them.
yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
And that's
well, the thing
exactly what,
is,
huh?
Well, the thing is, so like an example, like, in therapy, when we're training our kids or just teaching our kids in general not to blame themselves, we
Yep.
can't just stop at that. We have to also tell them, well, listen, like your parents
The
don't
outside
have a free will
influences.
either. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the society doesn't have free will either. So in other words, you're teaching them basically that this blameless paradigm applies not just to them but to all people. So like
Yeah.
suddenly, for example, somebody in therapy, they're not blaming themselves for their problems. They're not blaming their parents. They're not really blaming society. And without this like paradigm of blame, I think it's probably easier for them to focus on why what happened, and how to overcome it without being distracted with this diversive blame factor.
Yeah, another thing I want to mention is that parents sometimes blame themselves. Even the good parents, they blame themselves for the
Yeah.
way their children turned out, and that's completely irrational. It's not as
Hmm.
if that parent or set of parents, it's not as if they are the only influence in their child's life.
Yes.
There's the school, the church, the entire government, every person they ever meet during their entire life. And so what it really
Which
means,
is
yeah, that
yeah.
yeah, and
And
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean you can
Uh
go ahead. Yeah.
oh. As I was saying, I understand what you're saying. It's like I said, the reason why I said I would, as I was saying earlier, I would move out of the ghetto because, like I said, these kids right here. Now the parents, I live around in an area where the parents don't give a crap. I'm gonna be honest, they don't care
Yeah.
about their kids. They don't. They raise them up right, and that bad influence is portrayed in the school they go to.
Yeah.
And that's like they spread. That's why I say, yo, I'm not having no kids until I get out. Yeah, get away from get into a positive area at least. Cause
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
you know what? I mean, and of
mm-hmm,
course, I don't plan on having kids unless it's through adoption, but if I did, I'd want to move to another country first because the way things are right now, it's kind of crazy. I just don't think that
hey,
there's a safe place
good
to
point.
raise kids here.
Good point.
All right,
If stuff
so guys,
continues like this, I ain't gonna have a kid.
Yeah.
Good
So,
point.
guys, we're talking about how, like, overcoming the belief in free will, helps us to not blame ourselves, not blame our parents and their friends and society in general, but it extends beyond that. In other words, like, we've got to acknowledge that a lot of people refuse to accept that they don't have a free will because what they conclude is that, like, if we don't have a
Excuse me.
free will, if human beings don't have a free will and we're doing things that we consider wrong or evil, then in their mind, they have to attribute our actions to God. And most people are very comfortable. They need to believe that God is a good being, is good. So basically, we have to kind of
Read
like
that Bible,
explain
and
to
you'll see
them.
he's not.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, but here's the thing. Like Chandler, you were alluding to this earlier that basically there's a way to actually even absolve God of this evil, and it's not. I don't think it's completely satisfactory to my mind, but I think it works to a certain extent, and that's the like basically the reason we human beings don't have a free will and aren't fundamentally more responsible for the wrong that we do is because of this process of cause and effect. There's a cause to what we do, there's a cause to that, and a cause to that, and a cause to that. And if we follow this chain of cause and effect back, cause by cause, it ultimately leads to before we're born. Now, if we want to attribute evil to God, we have to say there's a cause to why God did the evil. But the problem with that is that God is eternal, and this chain of cause and effect would be eternal. So you never get to the point where you could say, well, God at this moment decided to do this evil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around, and I don't find that particularly intellectually satisfying either. Um, but it's very interesting because one thing it means is that, well, God is not in control, not all powerful, really. In the sense
That
that,
would clash with his emissions. Yeah, I know.
yeah, it's very interesting, and part of the problem is people literally are teaching that nothing is impossible with God. God can do anything. God can pop. God popped this planet into existence 6,000 years ago, and God raises people from the dead, and has this perfect blissy afterlife, called heaven after they die. But most of
We'll
the
burn in that eternal fire if you
yeah,
bad if you
yeah,
don't
but
like it.
but most,
Yeah.
yeah, what really chased me out of it is, 99% of the people are not believing the right thing, and so they go to hell. And that's part of the problem, is it's not their choice what they believe anyway. And so there's several problems, and that's why, the subject of heaven and hell, and God and Christianity and stuff comes up a lot in the podcast. Just because of, the conflict of realizing we don't have free will or free choice, and that we don't deserve to be sent to hell and burn forever. So yeah, it gets really interesting. But yeah, I think George is right. People who believe in God have this need to see God as all good, which is why they don't read the Bible. And it's also why free will was promoted as a doctrine in Christianity. In fact, I've been reading that book, The Free Will Delusion by James B. Miles, and he quoted somebody who mentioned that that's pretty much why the free will doctrine persists, or was added to Christian teaching, was because that way humans are to blame for evil instead of God. So I think, George and Will, that is the last domino that must fall. People have to find a way to
Mm-hmm.
absolve God in their minds, since they believe in God and they feel like they get their meaning and their purpose from God, and their whole life is so, for many people, it's so involved in their belief about God, that to make them think that God is responsible for all the evil in the world, and well, that's horrifying to them, which is why they psychologically deny it. That's their automatic
Mm-hmm.
response, is to deny this message of no free will, because then they think, well, God's all powerful, so he must have free will, and he intentionally caused all this suffering. So then they get all mad at God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the problem.
Exactly.
So yes, I think we're getting onto something, guys. I think we're getting down to the real issue. The real issue that keeps the majority of free will believers, which are almost all religious, in one form or another. This
Well, you did say some atheists, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. There's people like Daniel Dennett, and people who redefine free will to still try to come up with the whole compatibilism thing. Um, but for the most part, atheists understand that we don't have a free will, and you can tell, especially the biologists who explain how we evolved a certain way, why that we have certain behaviors that to morality is a kind of thing that all types of animals have. It's a survival thing. So yeah, we understand
Mm-hmm.
that we're programmed to survive and reproduce. We have no choice. We have to eat and drink and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And so I think biologists, evolutionists, they really understand it, and even the compatibilists understand. Most of them will admit that yes, in the past, everything being the same, you could not have chosen otherwise, but they still, at the same time, try to come up with a new definition of free will that allows them to blame people. And I think it's completely insane. But I think we are, as far as the religious folk anyway, we are getting down to the bottom of this. So yeah, George, what he mentioned is very important here. And we're just about running out of time of our 30 minutes for this podcast, but I think we've covered a lot about blame. So do we end this one, or was there something more that you guys wanted to mention?
If it's 30 minutes, I think we should end this and let's start a new one.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, you've been listening to Free Will, Science, and Religion with Chandler Klebs, Will, and George Ortega. We've had a great talk about blame and why people deny it. So we'll continue our exploration in future episodes. Hope you've enjoyed. Bye.